Thank you to the people who are supporting me on Ko-fi. You guys are keeping me alive. Wally chewed on his lower lip as he packed his bags. Home was creaking and aching, urging him on. The painter almost felt like he was being kicked out of the entity. Are you really okay with this, old chap? The house was normally so possessive over him. Or was that just him misinterpreting the creature's intentions? Closing his eyes for a moment, he let the memories of the past few weeks wash over him one more time. It had all started with you, a new arrival to the neighborhood of home. Your name was Sarah Smiles. Despite your name, you seemed to be a little bit gloomy. The colors around you always seemed to be just a little bit less saturated around you, like an aura. Your tire design was quite monotone. With white felt for your skin, long straight black hair, a black nose, and big black patches around your eyes. Additionally, you seemed to always wear something gray. However, this was in stark contrast to your personality, which was as cheerful as anyone else's, which often was overshadowed by your appearance. In fact, only Wally seemed to notice just how chipper you always were. Whenever the painter encountered you, you waved energetically at him. You said hello, neighbor, when he walked past you, and despite the gray around you, apples were just as shiny red whenever you picked them up at Howdy Pillar's store, like anyone else. But whenever the topic of you came up, everyone just said you sucked the life out of everyone by being a Debbie Downer. But not only did no one with that name live in the neighborhood of home, he also wasn't sure what to believe about you. You were always chipper around him after all. And a few days ago, you had participated in Howdy Pillar's bingo night. One of the few events the other townspeople actually had invited you, or at least remembered inviting you. Mostly by mistake. And you had sweeped, taking most rewards that night. Wally remembered you smiling from ear to ear while everyone else was seemingly annoyed. But that just made everyone try just that little bit harder. The final reward of the night had been a cabin in the nearby woods. Everyone stared at the white numbered balls in anticipation. And then, both you and Wally shouted bingo in unison, as Howdy read the final number. Everyone immediately said that he should win, as you had won so much already. Though good person that Wally was, he just simply said, "We can share, it's perfectly fine." And here he was, packing his things to be at the cabin for the weekend. With you. Last night Barnaby held a mock funeral for him, but he really didn't see the issue. Why was everyone so mean to you? Once all his stuff was packed, he stepped outside. With a huff, he put all his things into his big red car. And when looking back at home, its eyes narrowed, its doors slamming shut, followed by a loud locking sound. Least you can tell me is why you're mad, old chap. Are you jealous of the cabin? It's only gonna be like 2 days. But home just closed its eyes. In truth, it wasn't really mad at Wally. Not even sad or disappointed. It just wanted him out. After all, Home's eyes had caught the attention of a beautiful backyard shed behind Barnaby's house, and it wanted to introduce itself to it. And Home definitely didn't want Wally around for that, though this all was quite convenient for the entity. Wally sighed, turning on the ignition of his big red car, before driving to your house at the edge of home. Your house was painted black with a grey roof and a white door. In your front yard bloomed beautiful white rose bushes. You even had a little fountain shaped like a whale standing proudly in the middle of a front yard pond. There was movement behind your white curtains, and then you opened your door. Wally watched you carrying 4 bags, 1 in each hand and 2 under your arms. Do you need my help? He shouted over. That would be nice. Wally quickly left his toot-toot chugga-chugga big red car, rushing towards you, taking the heavy bags from under your arms. Oh, he grunted. What is in there? Silverware? Wally almost dropped the bags in response. But why? You shrugged. I don't know. But silverware? Why this much? Uncomfortably you shifted. I Wally blinked. No, it's okay, he said quickly. A moment of hesitation and you smiled. You helped Wally to the best of your ability to store everything in the trunk before sitting down next to him. You look nervous, you pointed out. I never left home. Your left eye twitched in surprise. Oh? But the forest is still within town limits. Wally shrugged. I know technically it is still home, but... He sighed. So, why does everyone hate you? You blinked in surprise at the sudden shift in subject. Sorry, I didn't mean to. It's my colors. Or lack thereof. You said with a deadpan tone after a while. People see how muted I look and just assume I'm gloomy and sad all the time. I see. I can't do anything about it. I mean, you pointed your dress. This one is actually red. Wally risked a peek at your clothes. It looked like a very dark gray. When everyone in the world is a quirky, colorful, happy person, neutral colors become the weird thing everyone is weirded out by. I'm just wondering why you're the only one noticing that I'm not acting any different. He exhaled. I don't know. Wally thought about his very obviously alive house. I guess I'm just very observant. So, what I mean is, I don't think you're acting all gloomy and sad, is what I'm trying to say. Well, thank you for treating me normal, you said quietly. The two of you arrived a while later at the gravel path leading to the cabins. Unlike the thick forest at the northern end of home, which was always covered in a constant fog, smaller trees with thick crowns that didn't allow any sunlight to shine through. Its ground thick, dark moss and dead grass. The people of home rumored that this specific forest was haunted. not to mention the scary, seemingly abandoned mansion right in the middle of it, that gave the rumors more power. The southern forest, where the two of you now were, was not only smaller, but also much more friendlier looking. The trees were taller, but they had more space in between each other, allowing more sun to shine through. The ground was soft, green grass with very few moss patches in between. And while the wildlife population was far smaller here, the animals were a little more used to the puppets and sometimes would not immediately run away upon spotting one of them. And apparently, Frank even managed to get one of them to eat out of his hand. Wally stopped at a small cobblestone parking lot next to an old firewatch tower that was open to the public. From here, 3 dirt paths led to 3 different holiday log cabins spread throughout the small forest. According to Howdy's map that he had given to Wally, the cabin the two of you won during the bingo was cabin number 2, which was the closest to the lot, and the second path on your left. The two of you arrived at the wooden structure about 9 minutes later. Quite the trek. You were city folk, so to you this was pretty much a full hiking excursion, while Wally pointed out how close it was to the street. The cabin was quite basic, only 1 floor. The building was secured on a cement foundation and about 4 steps off the ground, leading to a balcony, which led right into the living room. On the eastern side were 2 doors leading to... On the eastern side were 2 doors for the bedrooms, one smaller than the other, clearly meant to be One smaller than the other, which was clearly meant to be a children's room. The western half led to a kitchen aisle, and behind it another door to the bathroom. Wally wasn't impressed. While you eyed the fuse box, it was a prepayment box. It had a slot for both bills and coins. A small sign on its door read that Howdy Pillar, apparently the landlord of these cabins, would come by at the first of every month to empty them. This was to ensure that the people living in the cabins didn't have to pay for anything electrical in the event they didn't live in them for a while. You put some money into the machine while Wally began to unpack. The cabin was fully furnished, but it was a bit dirty. As you went looking for a broom, instincts telling you to check the bathroom, you heard Wally make a surprised shout. Quickly leaning out of the door, you looked at him, as he fully pulled out one of the kitchen drawers, showing it to you. "No silverware!" You snorted before grabbing the broom that leaned against the toilet. Thank you, instincts. You and Wally spent the rest of the day making the cabin presentable and livable. And when the sun was starting to set, he brought out 2 folding lawn chairs that had been hiding under the small bed in the kids' room, while you were setting up a battery-powered bug zapper. Before lying down on the chair the painter wasn't occupying. "You know," he spoke suddenly, as he looked up at the zapper's blue light. "When I was unpacking my stuff, I realized I forgot snacks. And then I saw you brought some." "Mm-hmm," you answered nonchalantly. "Sorry." Your gaze shifted to him and your eyes suddenly met for a moment, before both of you looked away in embarrassment. I'm just glad you thought of the stuff I didn't think of. That's all I mean." He pointed at the bug zapper, and then into the direction of the kitchen. "You know, whenever I leave home, I always forget one thing. Thankfully, at least one neighbor will be nice enough to remind me on what I forgot. I'm just glad that doesn't happen to you. You gulped before a black tint appeared around your face. Is that a blush? You nodded. Why? What's wrong?
I forgot my underwear.
Wally no blush too. Oh. He didn't know how to respond. Especially since he was about to ask you about how the bedrooms should be handled. Do you want me to drive you back to the neighborhood? Your face turned even more black, and so he decided to drop the topic. You would probably make a choice tomorrow. No need to rush, especially since it was getting dark. So now I have to ask, he said suddenly. How are we going to handle these sleeping arrangements? I don't mind sleeping in the kids' room, you said. And he sighed, almost disappointed. Come on, I can't let you sleep in that tiny room. You scratched your chin. But you're too tall for that bed. After a moment of awkward silence, you simply said, take a shower before bed. I don't like it when there's dirt in my bed. That surprisingly didn't fix the now awkward mood between the two of you. And if anything, it felt a little like a flirt to the painter. Maybe you meant it like that. You weren't sure yourself. An hour later, you were drying your hair. Wally allowed you to shower first, so you had more warm water. Dressed in a comfy striped pajama, you switched with him. And after Wally was done himself, you were already lying in your half of the bed. As expected by your nature, your half of the lavender-colored blanket was now a light gray. Biting his lower lip, he lied down next to you. Despite the few inches between the two of you, the painter could feel your body heat radiating, and slowly exhaled through his mouth. The entire room was smelling like you, and was driving his brain crazy. It was just basic flowery shampoo smell, but coming from you, it was completely different. His eyes wide open, he lay down on his back, staring at the ceiling. What Wally didn't know was that you yourself weren't sleeping either. Something you realized when your right hand suddenly grabbed his. Your fingers intertwined gently. You know, Wally, I can smell your arousal, you muttered shyly, and he grunted through his nose. Such an odd thing to say. You opened your eyes and stared at the wall before rolling around to face him. If you want to do it, you can. You reached up to the top button of your PJ and undid it. Wally's eyes widened. That's if you want to. With such a colorblind puppet like me. Wally combed through a still slightly damp pompadour before smiling, and then boldly rolling on top of you. Your face is only millimeters apart now. Was pinning you down by your wrists. Your heart pounded heavily against your chest. But he gently kissed your cheek just to test the waters, making you gasp. The spot where his lips touched you felt hot, and your legs shivered with arousal. Looks like you won't be needing underwear after all.